So welcome to our Poetry Showcase and Open Mic. My name is Scott Herron. I'm an Adult Services Librarian here at the Eugene Public Library, and this is our third year of doing this just wonderful event. And before I go any further, I want to thank Steve Schreiner and his lovely wife Paulette, because all of this is because of their hard work and creativity. Woo! So let's give them a hand. I'm looking forward to doing many of these in the future with Steve and Paulette, and all of you as well. I'm going to turn it over to Stephen, but before I do, two groups I just want to thank. One is the Friends of the Eugene Public Library, and the other is the Eugene Public Library Foundation. They're just two wonderful groups that do all sorts of activities for this organization and fundraising, and they provide the resources to make programs like this possible. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them. And thanks again for coming today, and I hope you enjoy it. And I'm going to turn it over to Stephen.
Thank you so much, Scott. Welcome everybody. So glad to see all these great faces, people that were at the workshop last week. So welcome to today's exciting poetry event. Actually, this is part 2 of this year's See Stephen Blue Poetry Series at the Eugene Public Library. Part 1 was a basic poetry workshop last Saturday, which took place right here in this room. And today's event is a showcase of local poets from 1 to 5 p.m., including a poetry open mic reading at the end from 4 to 5. So if you want to read for that, there's a sign-up sheet at the front. Here to entertain you today will be literary poets, performance poets, panel members and sponsors poets, plus 3 fabulous Eugene artists. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Have some refreshments, have some coffee or tea. A wonderful afternoon is in front of you. We would like to thank the Eugene Public Library for hosting these events, and Scott Herron again for his unwavering support and hard work in making these events possible. So please give Scott a hand. We'd like to say a special thanks to our sponsors and supporters, the Eugene Public Library, Friends of the Eugene Public Library, and Eugene Public Library Foundation, the Lane Literary Guild, Mid-Valley Willamette Writers, and Groundwaters Magazine. I'd like to thank everyone who brought refreshments and all those who are helping out here today. A special note from Groundwaters Magazine. For those of you who don't know, Pat Edwards, the editor of Groundwaters, they've been putting out this literary magazine that comes out of Lorain, Oregon, for many years now. And they're talking about January being their final issue. It's too much of a burden for them to keep it going. They're a nonprofit organization, and they're looking for some people to either help or take it over. So if you're interested in doing that, please let me know, and I'll give you some more information. If you're interested in helping, or know anybody who might be, or even taking over the publishing of this wonderful local literary magazine, just give me a shout out and let me know. Okay, I'd especially like to thank my awesome wife, Paulette. She coordinates all the food and the gourmet coffee and tea you'll find right over there. And amongst the goodies we brought, she baked some homemade pumpkin bread and apple cake this year. So we hope you enjoy what we have provided for you here today. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to give a special thanks to my fellow panel members who did the poetry workshop with me last week and are here helping today. Rachel Rich, who was handing out the programs. Rachel also baked some wonderful stuff today. Could you stand, Rachel, so everybody can see Rachel here? There you are. Thank you. And unfortunately, Michelle Graff, who has been such a help to me for 3 years now, she came down ill yesterday at the very last minute, and she kind of lost her voice. She can't talk, so she can't be with us today, but we thank her for all of her help, and she sends all her good wishes to her. So. Many of the authors and artists represented here today have their books and artwork for sale around the room at the tables. So please help support their work if you can by purchasing something today. Among the books I published and have offered at the table over there is this, the Eugene 150th Birthday Celebration Poetry Collection. This includes 30 Eugene poets and 2 Eugene artists, including Ellen, whose work is back there. And part of the proceeds that go from the sale of this book go to benefit the library here and Friends of the Library. So that book's for sale. What else? I read the groundwater thing. So, it is a long afternoon. Feel free to quietly help yourself to coffee, tea, and refreshments while our readers are entertaining you. And so now on to our introductions. As I mentioned earlier, we have 3 of Eugene's finest artists here today with displays of their artwork as well as some items for sale. Joining us for the 3rd year in a row is local Eugene artist Ellen Gabehart, who will be sketching some of our poets as they read today, just as she has done for the last 2 years. Ellen also has some wonderful work on display and for sale, so be sure and check that out. I've asked each of our participants today to provide me with a short bio. And so here's Ellen's. Ellen Gabehart began drawing when she was 3 years old. She has explored working in many mediums, subject matters, but her main goal is to capture the beauty of a landscape, figures, or musicians. She states, "Where there is life, there is art. Where there is art, there is life." You can view her artwork on this website, www.artisticmindonline.com/egabehart. Thank you, Ellen. Would you like to stand? Ellen Gabehart. Our second artist here today is photography artist Judy Hayden. Last year I published the 15th volume of Cascadia for the Oregon Poetry Association. I don't have it here. Okay, sorry. Sponsored, it's the anthology of winning poems for the Oregon Student Poetry Contest, sponsored by OPA. And Judy provided the wonderful photos for the cover and photos inside the book. So her work is on display for sale here today, so please check it out this afternoon. Judy's bio is, "I began with my father's old Nikon back in high school in the 70s, using the darkroom and processing black and white and film prints. I have always seen and loved patterns of light, line, texture, and form. The digital age has led to another way of capturing and expressing these blessings from nature. I enjoy taking photos that show grace or movement and tell a peaceful story in the instant they are seen." Photographer Judy Hayden lives and works in Eugene, Oregon. Please stand, Judy. Judy Hayden. And last but not least, it is my great pleasure to introduce our 3rd artist, Steve LaRiccia, who is showcasing his work here for the first time this year. Steve didn't give me a bio, so I made up a whole bunch of shit. Here it is. Steve's been very busy with the artwork and stuff. But Steve is the coordinator of New Zone Gallery on 164 Broadway, just a couple of blocks from here. Steve is also a unique sculptor of what he calls Steamworks art. I like to refer to them as a unique part of the steampunk movement. Some of these wonderful pieces are on display back here today. And I believe they also have working parts for you to check out during the breaks. Steve can do some stuff back there. That's very cool. Steve has a coffee table book of his artwork available for sale here today. Steve, would you like to stand? Steve LaRiccia. Okay, we are excited to have these 3 wonderful artists participating in our event today, and we hope you will support their work. The same goes for our wonderful poets today. Poets of many diverse styles, both in writing and performance. We hope you'll support them as well. So check out their books for sale and buy some if you can. Like our artists, I have asked each of today's featured poets to provide me with a short bio, which I will be using to introduce them today. We'd like to thank all the poets participating today for graciously offering their time and talents to our showcase. So with no further ado, the first hour of today's event will be a showcase of literary poetry. We have 4 renowned poets joining us this hour. First up is Joan Dobbie. Joan writes, sculpts, and teaches yoga here in Eugene. She has 2 grown children and 6 rapidly growing grandchildren, all of them much too far away. Joan has a 1988 MFA in creative writing from the U of O. For the past 30 years, she's published, taught, and promoted poetry. On September 28th, she co-hosted the inaugural reading of the Lane Writers Reading Series, which she is coordinating with poet and novelist Howard Robertson, who we will hear from later today. She has recently published her novel in poetry, Woodstock Baby, Made in Boston, also known as Woodstock Baby, a novel in poetry. She co-edited Before There Is Nowhere to Stand, Palestine, Israel, Poets Respond to the Struggle, Lost Horse Press, 2012. And The Many Faces of Hatha Yoga, Kendall Hunt, 2012-2013. She is very happy to be sharing her work with you now and wants to remind you to come to the River Road Annex on Sunday, October 26th for the Lane Writers Reading Series Performance Poetry Extravaganza with C. Stephen Blue, the Young Poets of Eugene, and Caribbean folk musician Evan Belize. Would you please welcome Joan Dobbie?
Hi. Everything changed when I came in and I saw, can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, and I saw the spread that was out here. So I have to read a poem that I happen to have on my computer, luckily. I hope I can you hear me if I'm not so close to the mic? Yeah, okay. So this is a poem I wrote, well, I won't even tell you the backstory, I'll just read it. The name of the poem is Chocolate Brownies. All right, go ahead, take a bite. You're scared, aren't you? Afraid your tummy could swell, your chin multiply under itself, that sort of thing? Well, you're right, of course you are, but if you don't dare to take for yourself even the tiniest bite of the tiniest brownie that I baked this very afternoon just for you, then I tell you, you have no right whatsoever to call yourself a poet. Because poetry is just another word for brownie. Poetry is black and sweet and sinful. It can save your life, and it can just as easily destroy you. Poetry can come to your bed in the darkest moment of the darkest night, wake you out of a blank, dreamless sleep, bury you in kisses, smother you in whispers, bite your neck hard enough to draw blood. Poetry can fill you up with hope enough to populate the entire state of California. And then, the very next morning, hold you on its lap, explaining sweetly that another darling poet has taken the coveted prize. Yes, poetry is dangerous and sometimes far from beautiful, but poetry is always rich, always mind-altering. I'm telling you, poetry is inevitably, utterly delicious. So come on, baby, do me a favor. Do yourself a favor. Like they say in Webster's United Unlimited Book of Cliché, give the devil his due. Come on, baby, take a bite. And I did write that poem because I had made brownies for my poetry class, and I was worried they wouldn't eat them. So, this is my book. If you don't have it already, and most of you do, I just want everyone in the world to have it. It means more to me than anything I've written before or since. And I'm going to read you just one poem from there to inspire you. It's called Woodstock Baby, Made in Boston, and it's records, it's a story, it's a novel, it's a story that takes place in Boston and Cambridge in 1969 to 1974. So, I'm going to read you one poem. It's called Ryan and Howard's House. get to know people. Ryan and Howard's house is a dull wooden box in Roxbury, just across the street from the police station, which is more relevant if you realize that the refrigerator is packed full of all sorts of medications, of many shapes and colors, including mescaline and LSD and other exotic chemical concoctions, which are in those days not bad, but good. We are the good guys. So the windows are painted thick black, and his room is Peter Max incarnate, not one wall, but all walls, and windows, and ceilings, and doors are purple, and green, and white stars in the eyes, all so vibrant that any cop entering would be blinded at one look, and all over the tables, paintbrushes, and paintings, and hashish, and grass, and beautiful bongs, because he truly is an artist, as I later discover. But for now, I'm mostly intrigued with, why is it they're keeping this fat, gray rabbit in the closet? Or how come that Ryan's so cute? So, yeah, everything falls into place, I believe. Yes. So being the age I am, there's probably not any chemical I haven't tasted at least once. But in 1995, I had the experience where one of my dearest friends died, and a few weeks after that, I thought I would eat some mushrooms. And that was not the thing to do. So this poem came out of that experience. It's called What I Learned One Day in Hell. What I learned one day in hell. I learned that hell is not just in the mind, but in the body. That suffering permeates all life on earth, and time itself is thin as air and makes no promises, while death is everywhere and easy. I saw myself a sagging, empty bag, unable to cry or write or speak, vomiting foul fluids, pissing my pants, writhing in nausea. Nor was I who I thought I was. Mother, artist, Jew, yogini. I was none of these things, just an empty bag of grating voices, none I recognized as mine. I felt myself drowning in a sordid sea of demons, and understood for the first time in all my life that there is truly evil in the world. I learned that I could die, that it would be easy to die, that who I am in life is held together by the will alone, and will can weaken. I learned that I could cause harm without meaning harm. I learned that simple decisions can be irreversible, that you don't have to use a knife to die, that death is not some distant speck on the horizon. Death is here, this moment, in this chair, on this bed. Death is now. I am loved, I cried out to bolster myself. I am learning, I cried to the demons. Learn more, shrieked the demons, and they hurt me some more. Learn more, they crackled and laughed. I am a good person, I said to them bravely, and they laughed and laughed. I learned that my friends and my parents and my children who left me truly are not with me. I learned that past is past. I learned the prison of the body. I learned the prison of the mind. I learned bad choices, hopelessness, and sickness. And then I learned my strength. I never knew it could be this hard, I said aloud to myself, but I am strong. I am strong. I am strong, I repeated to the demons. I am loved. I am strong. Love, 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 mocked the demons. And they spoke to me in my own voice, wanting me to do bad things, but I refused. And they were angry. But I was strong enough, and evening came at last, and with it the ebbing of the tide. So I didn't look at the clock, so I need someone to be a timekeeper and tell me when to stop. I have a few more poems here. This one.
you're fine.
I'm fine. Okay. This one is a true story, my very first memory ever. My parents were refugees from Vienna to Switzerland. I was born in Switzerland. My first memory, circa 1947. I think I was not yet 2, at home in the tiny neutral country called Switzerland, to which my parents escaped and where I was born, and from which we later were forced to leave. But then it was spring, and me so tiny, dark, and so naked, sitting bare bottom in a washtub of thin blue water, under the impossibly high, unreachable sky, where my mother had left me for just 1 minute alone, when the huge brindled cow with her great arched nostrils came by, snorting hugely, and drank up all my water. True memory. I want to read you one more that I have no idea what story goes with it. It's like a dream that sometimes comes into your mind and you don't know why. It's not a dream even, it just is. And I gave it a name that just is. I call it anthropomorph. There's the word anthropomorphism when you're trying to make an animal be like a human. Well, I didn't like that extra syllable. So this has to do with being other. Anthropomorph. Part 1. Look at me. Look me straight in the eye. Who in the hell do you think I am? You know the old story. Tell me my name or I'll steal all your babies. Every last one. Do you know I'm your teacher? Do you know that I teach what I don't even know? Do you know I've met God? He comes gliding up out of my throat like a waterfall. Insect, rich vomit that feeds baby bluebirds and teaches them song. Do you know, by the way, that they upsing the earth? Do you know that the earth herself never stops singing? Do you know that the bluebirds are not really blue? Part 2. Who made me? The little boy asks his white mother. Why, God, of course. What does God look like? He's an old, white-bearded white man with rheumy blue eyes. He made you out of clay. Part 3. Who made me? The baby bird asks her blue mother. Peep, says the mother. She doesn't speak human language, you see, so I have to speak for her. Earth made you, says bird mother wisely. She made you out of worms. Who made the worms? Oh, they just grew. They grew out of the dirt. Who made the dirt? Part 4. Look at that cute little black boy. He's standing up there on the podium, reciting every single word of the Declaration of Independence. Isn't he adorable? He thinks that he's white. Part 5. Look at me. Look me straight in the eye. I tell you my name, but it's way too long and too hard to pronounce. My nickname is Father, your father. I will not say uncle. I'm stamping my feet so hard that the whole world is shaking. I am not adorable.
Woo!
I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joan. That was wonderful. 2 things I forgot real quick. First of all, Charlene Marion, back in the back of the sales table, who has helped us so much at the workshop last week, and today she volunteered to handle the sales of everybody's books and stuff. So thanks, Charlene. And also in the t-shirt box under the sales table are a bunch of Groundwater's magazines. I forgot that Pat Edwards had given me a bunch of past issues to give out today, so anybody that wants to see what Groundwater's magazine is doing, please just take one. They're all free. Okay? All right, up next is my wonderful friend Laura LeHew, and Laura's bio is... Laura LeHew is the author of a full-length book of poems, 2 chapbooks, numerous articles with poems in American society, What Poets See, 1111, Ghost Town, of With, Pank and Slice, among others. She is on the steering committee for the Lane Literary Guild and is an active volunteer for the Oregon Poetry Association, having held a variety of positions including president, contest chair, and Cascadia editor, a student award anthology, like I mentioned earlier. She interned for and is a former board member of Calyx Press, an independent press focused on nurturing women's creativity. Laura received her MFA in writing from the California College of Arts. Laura's small press, Uttered Chaos, at utteredchaos.org, focuses on poetry. Since its inception, she has published 14 books, chapbooks by Northwest poets. Projects forthcoming include Command Line Kung Fu, a technical book by Paul Asadourian, Tim Medine, Hal Pomeranz, and Ed Scotus, Mrs. Schrodinger's Breast by Quinton Hallett, and a book by Roy R. Seitz. When she's not writing, Laura manages her consulting company, Deer Run Associates, at deer-run.com, which specializes in computer forensic investigations and information security. She's been a transplant most of her life. Laura knows nothing of gardens or gardening, but is well versed in the cultivation of cats. Her website is lauralehew.com, so check it out. Please welcome Laura LeHew.
Thank you, Stephen. You should have used your editorial prowess and cut that down when reading.
I know, I should have.
Sorry.
Time.
That was not, next time, six-word bios for everyone.
I think you're right.
Thank you, Paulette, Stephen, for all your energy and effort in the poetry and embracing all the diverse poetry cultures here in Eugene. It's very important. We really appreciate it. I was just at a wake and for a friend, and so that kind of informed what I'm reading today. A Grim Reaper. At the border between worlds, he could be sighted. Some confused him with Lucifer, some with that other guy. But he was just a messenger doing his 9 to 5. He was a lion, a scorpion, a snake. He was invisible. He wore a veil, a sword, a sickle, an hourglass, a scythe. He was a drummer, a dancer, a beautiful girl. He was ashes. He wished he could ditch his metaphor, maybe swap the scythe for a Glock and a BlackBerry or some other smartphone for the hourglass, 'cause man, that thing sure was heavy. Just once, he'd like to go about his day in a snug pair of jeans and a ball cap. Ida by Moonlight. It's after a painting by Bill Rain. A faint image, a near living design, expanding and contracting. She flows into every viable organism, lost and reappearing, interwoven, ghost's fugue, a sylph, ephemeral vapor upon the breath of all thought. Without the weight of the world, she guards the gates to the mortal planes. You are not Schrodinger, and you are not his cat. You cannot tell, but you believe you are alive, although perhaps you are dead. Your head is on fire, and not even Thalek can put your thoughts out. Your black cat is curled up in a black wicker basket and is growling at ghosts. A second black cat joins him in the basket, form a not yin, not yang, and certainly not sleeping rectangle. Now a devouring Ouroboros. There are no such things as ghosts. You have no cats. They are not black. They are purring. Thalek is just a myth. No wonder he cannot douse your thoughts. Your thoughts are on the struggle for truth in Fallujah. There is no truth. The U.S. is not involved. The U.S. will not send in troops. The U.S. delivers 24 Apache helicopters, 175 Hellfire air-to-ground missiles, reconnaissance drones to the tune of $4.7 billion, plus or minus. Your head is not on fire. Your hair is writhing. You are Medusa. You are not a cat. You do not have 9 lives, and war is not an answer. Perseus, not Schrodinger, is coming to cut off your head. Use you as a shield. What the Dead See, after a photo by Emily Wolinski. Bedrooms full of ghosts, prepared for a storm, glancing off sharp edges. Outcasts, suicides, remnants, lovers, answerable to many sorrows. The dead want to be provoked. They want atonement. Day by day, the living segue away until the long fallen are utterly forgotten. And yet, there you are on the half plane of convergence. Hoarfrost, 1. 38,231,521. 13% of we the people, destitute. 3,500,000 individual human lives exiled to the street. 1,350,000 pромless teenagers, preteens, third graders, toddlers, babies dispossessed. 2. We walk, bike, drive by, 3,500,000 embodied spirits. Reach out, invisible, transcendent, ghosts with supernatural corrugated boxes modeled into signs for food or work. Protection from the weather, housing under a storefront, lining frostbitten shoes. 38,231,521 people we never look in the eye. 3. Ice crystals coat surfaces, exposed to free air, a ghost army. Wild magic. We are wild magic, hot pants, hip huggers, purple velvet, smoke on the water and fire in the sky. We are truants changing into jeans and cropped t-shirts in the copse of dogwoods in Mort Jacobs Park, slathering on Coppertone, making our way, thumbs out to Northwest Plaza in the heat, in the humidity, to splash in fountains and push strange boys to the brink. Their scent Gandalf and Aragorn and Ent. We could have said no. We could have all gotten on the pill, used condoms. We could have all gone to high school, become travel agents, gone exotic. We could have stayed bottled in our brightness. We didn't have to fade into ghosts, chained into silence.
Oh, wow.
Undone. I was between strange lovers, twin stained glass sisters, stones chiseled into my November skin. They were a black flame doused into sand, ghosts beneath a harvested moon, waiting for you to swagger through a brittle map. Three more. These things I know are true. Phalanges, quarks, nuisance, the falling sky, low-lying clouds, vertical winds, catalyst, bellwether, blindness, conditional probability, bruised beginnings, fibula, the vertex of a graph, atonement, multiplicative mayhem, the everyday quality of evil, windmills, syncope, tragedy, your tongue in my mouth, your finger on my homicide, the sparkle on the spangle. This is an epigram, Art is a Jealous Mistress by Emerson, and it's also in a form called an abecedarian. So you'll figure that out. What the dictionary does not know, an exact moment of insight. Bumblebees huge and belligerent, then crystallized in amber, smog. The desperation of wood as it splinters, echoing the axe, the circular saw. Fragments of church windows, a galaxy of random diamond-eyed snowmen. Hallelujahs of gorging phytoplankton. Infidelities illuminated and forgotten. Juniper into gin. Klaxon tintibulations, leaving a knife in twisted. Movies, insatiable desire, agony of remembering. Nailing frogs to fence posts, oversight hearings, peculiar sparrows wearing raven masks, the quiver of bubbles shimmering into a canyon, remainders on bobbins, silence overtaking speech toward its own edge. Unanswered questions keep misery in line. Vicious murders parading as gospel. The wear and tear of magazines. Yoga bliss breathing in savasana. 0 hour, the confluence of shadow people and precise planning. And this last poem I wrote this week, not very long ago. She accidentally transposes her lover with a ghost. If only he hadn't lurched up the stairs looking for a fresh pot of coffee, like her father after a night of long necks. The pound of his right foot on the slate, the startle, the procession of the left foot, her blurt, "Don't hit me," the ghost's blood pouring from a gash in his head, a fall down the wooden stairs, pushed by a sister's scream, "Don't hit me anymore," banishing her ghost to a river of blood and fire, the light from October's blood moon streaming through the clear story. "I know you," she says to her lover, "won't."
Thank you so much, Laura. Laura often uses statistics in her poetry, and they're very informative, and I always enjoy those. So, okay, up next our next poet is Nancy Carroll Moody. Nancy, along with Sharon Munson, hosts the OPA readings each spring and fall at the Springfield Library. And if you haven't attended these, you're really missing out. So be sure to put them on your calendar. I've not had much opportunity to hear Nancy read before, so I'm really looking forward to this. Her bio is, Nancy Carroll Moody is the author of Photograph with Girls, published by Trap Rock Books. Her poems have appeared in the Los Angeles Review, the Journal, Salamander, Potomac Review, and Nimrod, among others. And she has recently completed a new manuscript titled The House of Nobody Home. Nancy has been a member of the Eugene Springfield community for 24 years and can be found online at nancycarrollmoody.com. So please welcome Nancy Moody.
Stephen, thank you for that. It's a pleasure to have everybody here. The audience is always one of the most important parts of a reading. A lot of appreciations have already been expressed, and I don't want to repeat what's been said, but I want to add my voice thanking the library, thanking Stephen and Paulette and crew for arranging not just one weekend, but two filled with poetry. And libraries are a very, very important place, and that we're sitting in one right now that's so open to poetry and art and music and the rest of the universe is a gift that we all have, and something we need to remember, I think, always. A few poems today. This first one is a little bit of an older poem, and it was written after a conversation with a friend. Her son had come home after a dance. And so this is called After the Dance, and it's for Sherry, his mother. That night, he reports that he slow danced with a girl. It was okay, though she was too tall and her arms hung fisted and heavy on his shoulders, same as the ropes he mounts in gym. When the music was done, he slipped outside to shoot hoops with the boys, stone cans behind the woodshop wall. As an afterthought, he mentions he needs aftershave. He's 13. He doesn't shave. But you quickly agree, with one condition, that you'll buy it for him, fearing for the nose of his 8th grade teacher, all her boys immersed now in waters of cologne. Crusty knees and mud, boy musk, bicycle grease. You'll know the scent when you find it, something to make the girls love him, but not so much they'll leave you. We recently experienced loss in our household, and so I brought you a tribute today. Obituary, Moody family bath mat. The Moody family bath mat returned to the earth on October 15, 2014, after a brief but unanticipated disintegration in the electric clothes dryer. The bath mat was 9 years old. The bath mat was manufactured of 100% acrylic fibers in July 2004, Jiangsu Province, China. After being sheathed in plastic and loaded into a container, the bath mat departed the country by ship, eventually arriving at the port of Seattle. The bath mat was ultimately relocated to a display of approximately 40 other patterns and styles in Kohl's department store in Springfield, Oregon. Soon thereafter, the bath mat was declared a perfect fit by the Moody family and was adopted into the household. The bath mat was assigned to the tile floor of the upstairs master bedroom, where its primary responsibilities were attracting cat hair, protecting the surface from shower drops, and preventing morning toes from becoming cold. The Moody family bath mat is survived by an LL Bean water hog entry mat, 2 color-coordinated braided kitchen rugs, an Oriental-style hallway runner, and an outdoor patio carpet bearing a tropical motif. Interment was at Short Mountain Landfill following a regularly scheduled Friday garbage service. No memorial is planned. In lieu of flowers, remembrances may be made to the Moody Family Bath Mat Replacement Fund, available at department stores near you. I love garage sales. I love stuff. And poems are everywhere. This poem is called Box of Rocks. Halfway beneath the table, lid torn back, $2 scrawled in black marker on the side. These yard sale rocks, heavy as regret. $2, the price of an accumulation. Scumbled with mud, collaged in dry leaf, bits of cobweb, the lost wings of insects. They glint like old loves, rugged stars. They too had lives once, arrived in this unlikely place because someone spotted a moon in them, because a hand reached out and said, "You." Oh, to have been the one chosen, the hurried heartbeat of that. Dimple, curvature, an angle of polish, a palm that curled itself around our shape and in its closing became our shape. to have come through the tumbling, and then this hardness we were shouldered into, the dismal weight of us, lid folded down, the cardboard darkness, our hearts ticking one against another. I'm not particularly biblically oriented, nor am I particularly apple oriented yet. This poem, Adam, the sequel, is filled with apples, and I have a lot of poems that just appear with these apples, and so I brought one for you, Adam, the sequel. This mount of apples, and when I provoke it, an entire garden balmy with cider. Also, that other world smell, the early sweetness of decomposition. Oh, to have been known by so many names. Cameo, delicious, Candy Crisp, Pippin, Green Sleeves, Topaz, Gala, Beauty of Bath. Bruises to be cut or eaten around. And its seeds, the sort of bitterness that can be swallowed whole. Knife to taut skin and the voluptuous split. The throaty namesake, its rise and fall. A worm once made a carnivore of me. And then that old woman in each one's dried self, so many faces of Eve. The heft of Rome apples, one in each palm, weighs like imagination. And I'm going to finish with one. My present obsession is a mermaid. And this mermaid mermaid stops by True Value to pick up a screwdriver. I don't drift the aisles anymore. It's easier just to ask. Once, in Sherwin-Williams, I knocked over a display of paint chips with my tail. Ebb tide and sea foam and starfish and clamshell swirling eddies on the concrete floor as the big store fan pulsed its waves from over by the caulking display. I turned. That was all it took. The guys up front were all elbow jab and guffaw, pointing and saying fish out of water, but you just try it, negotiating 3 dimensions at once. I'm as soft-shelled out of water as in, but I'm trying not to be so out of my depth. When I ask the boy at the hardware counter where I might find the orange juice and vodka, he gives that oh-so-familiar squint, looking at me like I'm from some other element, which is true, I suppose, if you don't know enough to inhabit your world in the same way it inhabits you. What I need is a drink, I say to him, and at last comes the glimmer in his eyes that tells me he gets my meaning now, and he takes off down the hall, returning with a couple of bottles of Aquafina that he plunks down between us, him saying sorry, it's the best he can do, and how he always thought he'd turn out to be an architect, or maybe a chef, but there was this girl and now the kid, and it's not such a bad thing, is it, that he can tell me anything about flat washers and O-rings I'd ever need to know? He wraps his thumb and forefinger around a cap, twisting it so elegantly that I'm easing through the salt reefs again, that fluid slippage through bouldered dark, my hips bumping flanks with the leathery sharks and the cryptic cuttlefish, and when the seal on the bottle of water breaks, it stops us both for just a moment. The exhalation, that hiss of something trapped escaping. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Our final poet this hour is Quinton Hallett, whose graciousness and warm smile are unparalleled. I feel fortunate to call her my friend. You're in for a real treat whenever Quinton reads. And here's her bio. Quinton Hallett writes and edits in Noti, is it Noti or Notai?
Notai.
I'm so bad. Notai, Oregon. You can tell I'm not from here. Active in the Oregon Poetry Association, she has co-hosted a reading series, facilitated poet visits to a rural high school, and served on the OPA board. She has 3 chapbooks, and her full-length poetry collection, Mrs. Schrodinger's Breast, is forthcoming in spring 2015 from Uttered Chaos. Please welcome Quinton Hallett.
Thank you, Stephen and Paulette and everyone. It's really great to be here and weave all our stories and obsessions into one afternoon. I am going to weave a poem here. I was at the same event Laura was and Nancy were earlier, remembering a good friend who's gone. And so I'm going to start with a poem by Linda Pastan, from her collection, A Fraction of Darkness. And this is, the poem is a tribute to Bill Stafford in his centennial year. And it's a poem by Linda Pastan, a favorite poet of a mentor and friend of mine who died 10 years ago, and her absence still prickles me. And just after we've come from remembering Ted. So, at my desk, to Bill Stafford. How many times I have sat this way with the poem's intractable silence between me and the world, with the tree outside the window refusing translation. My leaves are more than syllables, it seems to say. I think of you, miles west, floating on the tide of language so easily, giving only a scissors kick now and then, coming to shore some unexpected but hospitable place. Still we share between us a certain stubbornness, rising each morning to the blank page, climbing the ladder of light at the window all day, listening, both of us, as hard as we can. You can hold your applause if you want. I won't know which of these poems you like really more than the others, so you can hold it. I'm also going to do a nod to some more of our good friends and the gone ones. Anthem. Stagger this immense wild of summer. Let bear grass plume the forest alley and ocean spray curtain the hectoring of bees on the make. Every day is loaded with someone, claimed Catherine, who made it beyond weed or cobweb swag to nail her own plot and narrative. Let opportune rocks curve silent around peepers belting out this evening's anthem. Admire the old calendar's hard-won crack-allure. The next 2 poems will be in, this next poem will be in Mrs. Schrodinger's Breast. Instructions for a first-time widow. Start with this simple fact. You are no caretaker of air. Keep your mouth open like a bronzed goddess who maintains reciprocal stillness. Keep company with spiders and elephants, those sweet, preposterous scouts, for they know the way back from bruxing rivers and from gridlock. When you feel naive, let a memory slide up through your kelp hands. Be the green slug bride trailing a viscous train. Snap to now, there is no air raid drill in your town this year. Do not be the extinct Bacillosaurus or Hell's Canyon swallowing its own weather. Get out from under that tiny desk. Hear the first brash frog of spring. I spent a little time last weekend with my granddaughter. She's 15 and she's riding what young teenage girls loving horses sometimes, but I just love the experience of being with her and watching her. And I used to ride. I rode English seat saddle from age 5 to about her age. And so I love just that kinetic feeling of watching her and remembering riding. And the poem is Handing You Off.
I lift you onto the horse, and your footstep stays in my hands for hours, for days. When I sip from cupped hands at the creek, I'm in no rush to lower them, holding in this way an imprint, the impression of permanence glazed by its opposite. Once I was the tall horse you bet your life on. Once your head fit into this small pulsing bowl. And that poem actually was in an anthology that Joan Dobbie published after a workshop she gave. Just see. Another friend who's heading out. She isn't out yet, but she's heading out. So this next poem is for Mir. Ode to the Factory of You. They are closing it down floor by floor, the factory of you. Room by room, shift by shift. Lunch breaks are shorter, unsupervised. Even the vending machines ache for their paydays and cokes. Punch cards are drooping, yellow in their slots. The water cooler level is fixed on low, paper cups flattened. The noon bell is dull, its air raid siren sound lost. Where steam used to lift from the chimney over the boiler room, there is a pigeon roost for one mottled fellow who mumbles and pecks and turns his iridescent neck. How bright were the days when you were in full production, when laughter or benign shouting bumped their neighbors on the line. Before, the boss kept the office door open. Now it's tacked up signs, restricted area, compliance. Brittle winter has cracked the panes of you. Ivy clutching the brick facade is gaining purchase. But wait, hold on a minute more before the wrecking ball arcs a swing. Before you implode, let there be a parade. Let the quality control labels form a seamless queue and sing your praises from wherever they are in the world. Two more. The backstory of this next poems, I'm in the 5th month of a remodel out in Notai, and one day my iPad went missing. Contractors there all day for 4 months, and then some strangers on the property. Choosing bullnose while a young foster stranger lies in wait. How sudden the opportunity, how swift the theft, the search devilish, how uncertain the victim, her uneven memory, how suppressed the reflex, how intricate her resistance, the obvious conclusion. Too many profiles in the lineup, half-round, cavetto, radius, OG. A teenage silhouette begged an ID. She could not recall the face of her own mother. She had been robbed before, but that was the 70s. When there was no doubt who mislaid her gear, she chose the bullnose. And in the church of bric-a-brac and crimp, you find me confessing, stirring each naughty round and round, steeping my least warp. You find a menial windmill, flipping the truth, batting and bantering until bereft of initiative. You hasten to chasten me on my high escalator, where it is easy to wait and wait until the last second to step off. How frustrating that windmill made for the unachievable, and the escalator keeps rising and rising, only to fall.
Thank you very much, Quinton. Okay, so that's our first hour. Let's take a short break, let's say around 10 minutes, and we'll start up again.